The rain was coming down in sheets as I stared out the window of my Seattle apartment, the Space Needle barely visible through the downpour. I am Gareth, 44, a software architect, and until recently I thought I had it all: a beautiful wife, a comfortable life, and a future that stretched out before us like a well-paved road. My wife, Isolde, worked as a marketing executive. She was vibrant, ambitious, and the kind of woman who could light up a room with her smile. We'd been married for 15 years, met in college, and built our lives together. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing that ever felt insurmountable, or so I thought. The first crack appeared subtly, almost invisibly. Isolde started working late more often. Business trips became more frequent. She was always on her phone, texting and emailing, even when we were supposedly spending quality time together. I chalked it up to the pressures of her job. She was climbing the corporate ladder and I wanted to be supportive. Then came the changes in her behavior. She became distant, less affectionate. Our conversations felt forced, like we were reading from a script. The spark that had always been there between us seemed to have flickered and died. I tried to talk to her about it, but she brushed it off, saying I was imagining things, that she was just stressed. One evening, about 6 months ago, Isolde told me she had to go to a marketing conference in San Francisco. It was a 3-day event and she seemed excited about it. I helped her pack, drove her to the airport and kissed her goodbye. "Have a great time," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic, even though a knot of unease had formed in my stomach. That knot tightened when a few days later I stumbled upon a receipt in her purse. It was for a hotel room in Seattle, dated for the same weekend she was supposedly in San Francisco. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the piece of paper, my mind racing to make sense of it. There had to be a logical explanation, right? I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. I texted, asking if everything was okay. She replied a few minutes later, saying the conference was going well and she'd call me later. The lie hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, my mind replaying every interaction it had with Isolde over the past few months, searching for clues it'd missed. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became that something was terribly wrong. The next morning, I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone. I know it was a violation of her privacy, but I felt like I had no choice. I needed to know the truth. Her phone was locked, of course, but I knew her password, our anniversary date. I typed it in and the screen unlocked. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages, my eyes scanning for anything that would confirm my suspicions. And then I found it. A series of explicit text messages and photos exchanged between Isolde and a man named Kendrick. The messages were filled with intimate details, plans for secret rendezvous, and declarations of love. My world tilted on its axis as I read them, each word a blow to my heart. Kendrick, I discovered, was one of Isolde's colleagues, a senior vice president at her company. They had been having an affair for months. The shock was quickly replaced by a burning rage. I wanted to scream, to break things, to confront Isolde and demand answers. But I knew I needed to stay calm, to gather my thoughts and plan my next move. When Isolde returned from her conference, she acted as if nothing was amiss. She smiled, hugged me, and asked about my week. I forced myself to smile back, to play along, while inside I was seething with anger and betrayal. "How was San Francisco?" I asked casually, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, it was great," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I learned so much. And the weather was amazing," I nodded, pretending to be interested while picturing her in the arms of another man. "I am glad you had a good time," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm that she didn't seem to notice. Over the next few days, I played the role of the unsuspecting husband, all the while plotting my revenge. I knew I couldn't let Isolde get away with this. She had betrayed me, lied to me, and shattered my trust. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling. My first step was to gather evidence. I meticulously documented everything I found on her phone, taking screenshots of the text messages and photos. I also hired a private investigator to track her movements and gather additional proof of her affair with Kendrick. The investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Mallory, was incredibly thorough. She provided me with photos and videos of Isolde and Kendrick together, confirming my worst fears. They were clearly in love, or at least lust, with each other. As I watched the videos, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It was one thing to read about the affair, but it was another thing entirely to see it with my own eyes. The intimacy they shared, the way they looked at each other, it was all a cruel reminder of what I had lost. With the evidence in hand, I decided it was time to confront Isolde. I waited for her to come home from work one evening, and when she walked through the door, I was waiting for her, a stack of photos and documents spread out on the coffee table. "What's all this?" she asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. "Have a seat, Isolde," I said, my voice cold and hard. "We need to talk." She sat down cautiously, her eyes darting around the room, sensing the tension in the air. "I know about the affair," I said, cutting straight to the chase. "I know about you and Kendrick." Her face paled and her eyes widened in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice trembling. I gestured to the photos on the table. "These," I said. "These are what I am talking about. You and Kendrick together in Seattle, while you were supposedly in San Francisco." She stared at the photos, her face a mask of guilt and shame. She didn't say anything for a long moment, and then she burst into tears. "Gareth, I can explain," she sobbed, reaching out to me. I recoiled from her touch. "Explain what, Isolde? Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to my face for months." "It just happened," she said, her voice choked with tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely and Kendrick was there for me. He made me feel alive, alive," I repeated, my voice rising in anger. "What about me, Isolde? Didn't I make you feel alive? Didn't our marriage mean anything to you?" "Of course it did," she said, her tears flowing freely now. "But things have been different between us lately. You've been so focused on your work, and I felt like you weren't paying attention to me. So that gives you the right to cheat on me?" I asked, incredulous. "That gives you the right to destroy our marriage?" She didn't answer. She just sat there, sobbing, her head in her hands. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice firm. "I want you out of this house. I want a divorce." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with despair. "Gareth, please don't do this," she begged. "I am so sorry. I'll do anything to make it up to you. I'll quit my job, I'll go to therapy, I'll do whatever it takes." I shook my head. "It's too late, Isolde," I said. "You've broken my trust, and I don't think I can ever forgive you." She left that night, taking only a suitcase full of clothes. As I watched her drive away, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and a sense of relief. The pain was still there, raw and intense, but I knew I had made the right decision. The divorce was messy and acrimonious. Isolde fought me every step of the way, trying to get as much money and property as she could. But I was determined to get what I deserved, and I wasn't going to let her bully me. During the divorce proceedings, I also learned some disturbing things about Kendrick. It turned out he had a history of sexual harassment and misconduct at his company. Several women had accused him of inappropriate behavior, but the company had always swept it under the rug to protect his reputation. Armed with this information, I contacted the company's HR department and threatened to go public with the allegations if they didn't take action. Faced with the prospect of a major scandal, the company launched an internal investigation, and Kendrick was eventually fired. Isolde was furious when she found out what I had done. She accused me of ruining her life, of trying to destroy her career. But I didn't care. She had ruined my life first, and I felt like she deserved everything that was happening to her. In the end, I got everything I wanted in the divorce settlement. I kept the house, the car, and a significant portion of our assets. Isolde was left with nothing but her reputation in tatters and a tarnished career. As for me, I am still healing from the betrayal. The scars may never fully fade, but I'm determined to move on with my life. I've started seeing a therapist, and I'm slowly learning to trust again. I know that there are good people out there, and I am hopeful that one day I'll find someone who will love me and cherish me the way I deserve to be loved. The rain has stopped now, and the sun is beginning to peek through the clouds. As I look out at the city, I feel a sense of hope. The road ahead may be uncertain, but I am ready to face it, one step at a time. I am Gareth, and this is my story of betrayal and survival.